Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and this is a different setup just for today. I'm not at home, so I actually watched this when it aired in the middle of the night. Unfortunately, I could not record it at that time. My response, because well, there's other people in the house, along with dogs that pretty much bark at anything that moves at any time. So I kicked everybody else out, and it's time for me to talk about the book of Boba Fett. This is obviously a brand new series, just premiered again like last night, hours ago, and this is a story that was first revealed, that would be told at the end of Mandalorian season 2 on Disney Plus, and it very much is not just, hey, what's Boba Fett doing next. It's also a bit of a story about where he's come from and what he did to what he struggled through in order to get back to where he is now. Now, this is very much a. I know I can't. I don't want to spoil anything here, but I'll just start out by not spoiling things. Beyond some minor things. This takes place in the modern time. The modern time, about 5 years after Return of the Jedi, and it also has a lot of flashbacks. That's pretty much the only spoiler-free stuff that I could tell you. Obviously, Fennec Shand is in this, played by Ming-Na, and there's Tamara Morrison, and it pretty much picks up not too long after what we saw. I'm going to spoil this part if you haven't seen the end of Mandalorian Season 2 in the after-credit sequence. Boba Fett taking the former throne of Jabba the Hutt, which was filled by Bib Fortuna after Jabba's death, after the end of Return of the Jedi. So, yeah, he's trying to become the big crime lord based in Tatooine. There's a lot of people, some people are, not a lot, but some people like to complain and they go, oh no, another thing where everything's set in Tatooine, the big desert planet. Yeah, I'm like, cares. It's a place we know and we can still learn a little bit more about, and I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, we have a foundation of a world that we already know. So that's the end of the non-spoiler area. If you haven't seen this yet, and honestly, I don't know why you'd watch me before you'd actually watch the thing. First of all, I don't know if anybody should just blindly obey what critics say, including myself, just because they have a platform. I like to talk about things. I don't like to be necessarily a critic, but rather somebody who just says, this is what I got out of it. And I try to find the best possible thing. I try to find something good in just about everything I see. Some things are irredeemable, but, this is Star Wars, so it already gets a pass for me in most cases. I always look for the best in Star Wars because I want to live in that universe. I want to talk about the universe. I want to see characters that I know and love, and Boba Fett is one of them. So here we go with a little bit of spoilerific stuff. This is, like I said, it takes place in the modern time, but it touches on both the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. There's even a sequence from Attack of the Clones that may look really familiar to you, but I think it was actually reshot just for this series. And you'll know when you see it. But there's also, we get to see right off the bat in the fitful dreams that Boba Fett has as he's being healed in the Bacta tank inside Jabba's palace, because he's taken a beating over the last few years. After meeting up with the Mandalorian and everything else that was going on, he needs some time to heal, no matter how tough he looks. But he's having dreams about his life, and we get to see those. And we get to see, the big question is, how in the world did he escape the Sarlacc pit that he fell into at the beginning of Return of the Jedi? He's supposed to be down there digested for thousands of years. So how did he get out? Well, we get to see that. Not going to tell you how, but it's pretty straightforward. It happens, I don't think there's a whole, has to be a big storied bit of, it needs to be nothing like detailed. It's like Dengar's not going to show up and, save his life, and, it's just, he got out, and this is how he did it. He did it of his own accord. So, but you get to see it. So that's kind of good for all of us who are completionists in these things. We got that out of the way. What we do find, though, it is still not an easy road. He just didn't suddenly, put on a costume, grab a gaffy stick, and then suddenly start heading out looking for his suit of armor. We find out how he lost his armor. We find out uh, what happened after that. It's the twin sons of Tatooine are not exactly gentle to anybody. So, yeah, he went through quite a lot, especially at the hands of the Tusken Raiders, the Sand People. So we get to see his comes into conflict with them pretty quickly, and he's an easy mark because he is beaten. He should not be alive. Nobody usually ever escapes the Sarlacc, and stripped of all of his weapons and his armor, he's can't put much of a fight. But he he goes through a bit of a trial by fire, by sun, by heat, and everything else to sort of connect better with the Tusken Raiders than he had at the beginning of the episode. Speaking of which, one of the things I was discussing with a friend of mine this morning was the fact that hopefully the Tusken Raiders, which we see as mostly bloodthirsty, kidnapping, killing, faceless monsters of the desert, I'm hoping this story actually does build into the mythos of the Tusken Raiders. Just show us what they're more about. Because they're sort of, in a lot of ways, they're kind of a metaphor for Native Americans, as we saw Native Americans back when we started coming to America, we European white types. We saw them as savages. We saw them as non-human and easily destroyed. They were nomadic in some cases, and they were just there to be rolled over. And the Tusken Raiders, even in this just episode, which we see a few that don't look like all the others, and we get to see what a little bit more about their culture. And I have a feeling we're just scratching the surface. I hope we're just scratching the surface. I hope we see a lot more from them and see what they're all about, and that they're not just faceless, murderous savages as everybody believes them to be on Tatooine. I mean, you see how Uncle Owen sees them, how Luke sees them. Luke's immediately attacked in the A New Hope. Ben knows how to take care of them. He's probably worked with and against them for a number of years when he moved to Tatooine, which we might see in the Kenobi series. But he knows how to scare them away. He used the Krayt Dragon horn to scare them off in the first film, Episode 4. So yeah, there's come on. Sorry, man, that's didn't last long. I've only been on this for 8 minutes. So anyway, that was neat. Yes, I'm on Roku. Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack here. It won't seem like a lot happened, and it's only a 38-minute episode. It's very short. It's way too short for me. And we have 7 episodes to go weekly over the next 6 more weeks. And I think there's going to be a lot to discover. There's lots of they say there's a bit of a Luke Skywalker at the end of Mandalorian reveal in each episode, practically. It's not that. No, we do get a familiar face in when Boba and Fennec head into a cantina in Mos Espa to talk to one of the people who should be paying him tribute, and we get to see that Max Rebo is still alive and rocking. So he's alongside another musician, it's a Bith, but I'm not sure if it's Figure and Dan or not. He's playing a totally different instrument, like an electric, like a keytar kind of thing. Sort of, it's not a keytar, but it sounds very synthy. So, but we see Max Rebo, who was on Jabba's sail barge, and the legend has always said that he escaped that, and I don't know if the rest of the band did, but it's always been said that even in the EU, the expanded universe stuff that's now Legends, it said that he survived that whole wreck, the escape of Han, Leia, Luke, Chewie, and Lando, R2 and 3PO. So yeah, it's good to see him rocking. I have a feeling that we're going to see much bigger cameos in the time to come. And this is all speculation. I do not know anything. Yes, they filmed this thing 5 miles from where I live, but I have no access to the stage or anything else, and I have no access to secrets, and I have no desire to learn secrets before they happen. I want to watch this thing as it happens. I hate spoilers, so And that's why I warned you before I started talking about spoilers. Figured you'd want to talk about it. One of the things I would like to see here is obviously Mandalorian cameo, maybe. Maybe we'll see Amy Sedaris show up. She's more in a Mos Eisley gal. But yeah, we see Mos Espa, which is a town where Anakin grew up before, the Jedi showed up. And yeah, we're not going to. I don't imagine we're going to get anything that involves the history of Anakin or anything else. So that's not what I'm getting at. But we get to see a little bit more of Mos Espa than what we saw in Episode 1. So yeah, this touches on a whole lot of different things. One of the Twi'leks that comes to visit him and supposed to pay tribute is one of my favorite moments, because he's a bit of a jerk. Twi'leks are not exactly bending over backwards to pay tribute to Boba Fett. And also the fact that the Twi'leks have always been treated as if they were like sexy and they were slave. Like Ula was a slave girl and everything else, and they're sexualized. Well, in this case, this episode they're also powerful. One played by Jennifer Beals, which is the mayor or the boss of Mos Espa, or that specific cantina at least. And there's also like servant people who both a woman and a man, very attractive Twi'leks, who come and help to say, hey, would you like us to polish your helmets? Yeah. For Fennec and Boba. But yeah, there's a lot of humor. It's not like you're gonna bust a gut or anything, but there's lots of little nods and bits of humor throughout this, and you get to see that the two of them have a nice rapport between them. And there's some action, obviously. Yes, there's a lot of people like the idea of Boba Fett stepping into the shoes of Bib Fortuna and also previously of Jabba the Hutt. There's everybody wants a piece of that crime syndicate power and wealth, and yeah. Imagine the other remaining Hutts are not taking this well. Assuming they weren't more of them wiped out by the Crimson Dawn, but that's another story altogether. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot to go here, but my wish, which it's way too big, is that if this actually would go to a season 2, I don't know if it will. If there's an after-credit sequence in the final episode, I want them to suddenly jump to a completely different planet, somewhere maybe in the depths, the bowels of Coruscant, and they hear some people talking, negotiating, whatever else, or you hear a mechanical arm raise up, and you see it's attached to Mace Windu, a half-blind Mace Windu, who looks like he would probably eventually cross paths with Boba Fett at some point. I don't know exactly how that scene would work out in my head. I just thought of it now. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I'd like to see Boba Fett and Mace Windu face off as for vengeance for killing his father Jango. So that would be kind of cool, right? Everybody's talking about how Mace might have lived. He's jumped from higher places than the offices of Palpatine. Him falling is another matter. He might have survived. You never know. Anyway, that's all I really got to say. You can ask questions more. I'm a big Star Wars fan. If you have comments and questions, I can answer those. It's my thing. So, yeah, if you watch this and you have your own thoughts on this, again, I realize some people might go, it's a little quiet. It's kind of not a full big actioner yet. But I think we got fed a lot of new information that we were always kind of wondering about, but it's not big bombastic stuff, and it's also the kind of thing that we're just literally setting the foundation for what's to come over the next 6 episodes, and I hope some of them are longer than 38 minutes. Please. Anyway, I will see you back here tomorrow. I think what I pulled yesterday was Port Protection, Alaska. That's what we're watching next. I could be wrong. I'm totally blanked right now as I'm thinking about what I'm going to say about tomorrow's episode. It's already been picked. Port Protection, Alaska, I believe, is next. If I'm wrong, I'll come back and correct. But that's what we're watching next on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you here then. Bye.